All right, let's go to him. He filled in on radio this morning, so we don't join him from his house. We join him from the radio studio in Los Angeles. My friend Doug Gottlieb, the Duggar, brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Doug Gottlieb now joins us. So I thought this morning, I said, Cam's got style, Kirk Cousins doesn't. So Kirk Cousins the last 2 years has unbelievably profound numbers. You can't find a media person that defends Kirk Cousins. Cam Newton, the media loves him because he's got style and he's interesting. And he's a story, and there's narratives. He's Russell Westbrook. You can't take your eyes off him. But I think the New England thing could end up being, Doug, kind of a mess. Who knows if they have preseason? Your thoughts on the expectation from the media of Cam and the reality of it?
Well, I've heard people say this, this could, Randy Moss, the fun is back. And, this could be the best Patriots team we've had. Like, wait a second. They were 16-0 and 18-0 losing in the Super Bowl. This is the same Patriots team that we all agreed Tom Brady didn't have enough weapons. So now all of a sudden Cam Newton makes them a favorite in the AFC East. I think Bill Belichick's a great coach. I've seen him devise an offense around Jacoby Brissett during his rookie year to beat the Houston Texans. But I want you to keep in mind, he hasn't stayed healthy the past couple of years. He's had several surgeries on the two most important parts of his body, his shoulder and his ankle and his foot, right? And, oh, yeah, by the way, he's not going to have OTAs, 2 preseason games. They play a first-place schedule. In the first month of the season, there are 2 road games in Seattle, easy place to play, and in Kansas City, even better, right? So, look, generally, the NFL hit rate for free agents is about 33%. Go back and look at they all, and usually overpaid. The one thing for the Patriots is they underpaid. But why was he available? The big question is his throwing shoulder. Yeah. There are people in the NFL that believe his shoulder is shot. Now, is he healthy enough to pass the physical? Probably. Does that mean he can start the season? Probably. Does he know the offense? What does the offense look like? Can they execute the offense? Are they going to make running Cam? Because the Carolina Panthers, who knew Cam Newton better than anybody, brought in Norv Turner. And Norv Turner is a guy who likes play action, drop back, throwing the football. Why? Because they believed that was the best way to elongate his career. If the Panthers knew him best and tried to use him in that system, and why would New England then turn him back into a runner? It's very confusing if he fits. Now, I do think that Belichick knows how to use his guys. McDaniels used Tim Tebow when he was in Denver as a running quarterback. They used Jacoby Brissett. And I think eventually, if Cam Newton's body is holding up, he'll get a shot. But if I'm him, I prefer to sit, learn the offense, and let somebody else lose those 2 road games in Seattle and Kansas City. But you're right, Colin. 33% is the hit rate on free agent quarterbacks. And I'd say it's probably lower on Cam Newton, not simply because of Cam Newton, but because of his shoulder, his foot, the system, the schedule, and the lack of offseason.
By the way, the NFL preseason, I don't get it. I think it's overstated. College guys go out and play. I watched Auburn, Oregon last year play a great game, well played, very few penalties, very few turnovers, with a bunch of 19-year-old kids without a preseason. I don't buy 4 preseason games. Your thought on the NFL cutting it in half already?
Well, we all know they don't need the 4th preseason game because a lot of starters don't play in that game. So it comes down to 1 preseason game where a lot of the teams' ones would only play a drive or 2. I would generally agree with you, that you don't need 4 preseason games. And this is one of the things that quarantine and COVID-19 has simply sped up. We knew preseason games were going away. We knew these scrimmages were going to become much more in vogue because you can set up specific situations for each team. But what have we seen with the Patriots? A perfect example where they use September as another month of preseason because, yes, you're right. I heard you earlier with Joy. You can tell if a guy can play right away, whether he can play or can't play. But what you don't get is the cohesion of offensive lines, the cohesion of teams running new offenses, of teams integrating new pieces, like a Cam Newton. And when you don't have that, that's when line play breaks down. That's when quarterbacks get hit. That's when quarterbacks get hurt. That's when you have these weird outlier results early in the season. I do think it will hurt because you mentioned college. Colleges have spring football. Okay, they get a spring football game. They get spring football practices, and even college games. Most games are pretty ugly early in the season. That's why I don't think it's a true indication of who's the best and who's not. But I think it will hurt the cohesion if they don't have OTAs, shortened training camp, and you lose essentially one preseason game.
David Njoku, very good tight end, Cleveland Browns. Can't stay healthy, super talented. Wants out in a trade. Is it and I said I think OBJ eventually is going to want to trade. There's just too many good players. What was your takeaway on that move? He gets an agent. He wants out already. Your thoughts?
Well, shocker, Drew Rosenhaus is his agent. It shouldn't be shocking that he wants out. Secondly, why would Cleveland trade him now? That he's under contract for at least 2 more years, if not more. If they want him, they will keep him. Remember, they signed Austin Hooper, who's a much more refined pass catcher. But my biggest takeaway is this. I like that Cleveland hired Kevin Stefanski. But you also have to remember who Kevin Stefanski is and how they had success last year in Minnesota. They ran on first down, they ran on second down, and if possible, they ran on third down. They have a tremendous, tremendous running back room. But they also have several pass-catching tight ends, and they have 2, not just elite-level wide receivers, but 2 volume wide receivers, right?
Yes.
OBJ wants the ball all the time, and if he does it, Jarvis wants it all the time. And what happened last year, even though they were successful in Minnesota, Stephon Diggs was ticked. He wanted out. They got just too many mouths to feed. And while I believe they should be more successful, the problem is that while all those guys say they want to win as long as they get the football.
Sure.
And there's just only one ball. And Kevin Stefanski had his most success when he finally got to call plays after like 20 years in the Vikings organization by running the football as often as humanly possible, even where it upset his 2-star wide receivers and they ultimately had to trade Stephon Diggs. I think this is the beginning of an unsettling time in Cleveland where they should win games because they've done a good job of solidifying the offensive line and picking a coach who should fit with what makes Baker Mayfield successful. But somebody's going to be unhappy, and I think that's most likely to be one of those 2 guys outside the numbers.
Just a couple minutes left. I'm not a golf expert, but Bryson DeChambeau is something I've seen. It's called John Daly and Dustin Johnson, and even Tiger and Jack. And in a very refined sport, he's Paul Bunyan. And there's always a little pushback on the guy that's a little more alpha, a little more testosterone, hits it a mile. I think he's fascinating. I don't see him as an all-time talent like Tiger, but be that as it may, I was watching this weekend and I'm fascinated by him. And he's pushed a lot of people are getting kind of tired of his story. What do you make of him?
Look, you drive for show, you putt for dough, right? We do know that. So in order for him to be an all-time great, Tiger Woods is the greatest iron player in the history of the game. And when 8 foot and in, 6 feet and in, he was money. So I don't know about him being an all-time great. I do know that he's exactly what golf needs, right? Give me a reason outside of Tiger Woods that you want to watch. It's not because there's a lack of talent. There's more talent now on the PGA Tour than there's ever been, in terms of depth of quality young players. But give me a reason to watch. And a guy that outdrives by percentage-wise Tiger Woods at peak Tiger Woods, when they start having to DeChambeau courses, I'm in. You may not be in. That's because neither of us have hit the ball 350 yards on average. It's a different game. But any amateur golfer spends 5 times as much to fix his driver, which he might use 5 times, 6 times in a round. Why? Because it's the ultimate machismo, testosterone club. And this guy can hit it a long way. And when he hits it straight, he's pretty damn good. I'm in on DeChambeau, not being an all-time great, but by changing or at least getting us to watch more golf.
Yeah, good stuff. Doug Gottlieb, the Duggar, does a great job. We have him on regularly, and usually we get a nice view of his house. Today he's in the radio studio because he filled in for Dan Patrick. Good seeing you, buddy. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.